Hello everybody and welcome to the War Room. This one is for the one on Prime Video 3 main event for the one Bantamweight MMA title. John Lineker defending his belt against Fabricio Andrade. Of course, you see John Lineker's name on the fight card and you get excited the same way that I do. This guy is a veteran of the sport, even though he's only 32 years old. He's been around for a long time. He's been beating guys at the top of the division for a long time. And now he's here defending his belt against a young up-and-comer. Fabricio Andrade, 25 years old, 10 fights into his MMA career, 8-2 is his record. He has a wealth of Muay Thai experience, though, and you'll see that as soon as I start showing you some clips. As soon as you watch one of his fights, you can tell that he's got plenty of experience that's not in MMA. Doesn't mean he doesn't have grappling skills, because we saw that in his one championship debut, which is where I'm going to start. Before we get into it, a quick tale of the tape. So Fabricio Andrade, 8-2 is his record, 4 wins by knockout, 2 wins by submission, both rear naked chokes. On the other side, John Lineker's epic record, 35 wins and 9 losses, 17 by knockout, 4 submissions, 3 rear naked chokes and a guillotine. A very, very dangerous individual. 4 over 5 rounds, 4 over 3 rounds several times. He's got lots of wins by decision on his record as well. It's not like he has to knock them out or he loses. He knocks them out or knocks them down over and over again. He outpoints them. He beats them up. He controls the center of the circle. He doesn't allow anybody to take any control of the fight because they have to go through him, and he doesn't like to take a backward step. This is why this is so interesting, because when you watch both of these fighters, they both occupy the same space. John Lineker likes to be right in your face with your back up against the fence. Andrade gives you a little bit more space, but not much. Only a little bit more because he wants to use his kicks and knees as opposed to his hands. Now, when it comes to height, of course, Andrade has got the height and reach advantage. He's 3 inches taller than Lineker, and he's got a 5-inch reach advantage. And that will be very evident, not only because of the way that he fights, but also the speed at which he moves. Everything that John Lineker throws is looping. It comes over the top and round the sides, up the center, and he is a wrecking ball of an individual. Andrade is very, very clever, very, very specific with the targets that he's aiming for. He plays with you on the outside, pokes you with his jab, keeps feinting to try and get you to come crashing forward, and then he nails you with the body kick or the knee. The guy's a vicious finisher. Someone's going to get knocked out. I don't see any other way for this fight to play out because they are both incredibly intense. I'm going to start with Fabricio Andrade's one championship debut. This was against Mark Abelardo. And what you'll see here is just a confidence closing range and closing distance, not only because he's got great striking, but also because he's got great grappling, which we saw in this fight. Now, it's quite clear that he wants space from Abelardo. He doesn't want to get tangled up. When he throws this kick, Abelardo is able to catch it and run him to the floor. And this is where we start to see the rest of Andrade's game. I'm just going to take this back and show you this, because the way that he defended this is super efficient. So he gets the kick caught. You can see Abelardo's got a grip on this leg. It's a tentative grip, but it's enough to start pulling him towards his opponent. Straight away, what we're going to see from Andrade is that he's going to wrap over his opponent, but he's going to get onto the side. You see how he's on the side of his opponent. He's not in front of him, which takes away that forward drive. It allows him to start circling around to the side, and then he actually gets a really good grip on the butt here. And you can see him circling around. He's got this hook on the leg as well, which is keeping some distance between him and his opponent. And as they transition to the floor, let me just slow this down. As they transition to the floor, look at that strength. He's going to free this leg that's caught up, and he's going to run around the back and drop his hooks in at the same time. The speed at which he moves at, the aggression of which he attacks his opponents, I just don't think Abelardo was expecting him to be this aggressive on the ground. And he put him to sleep. I mean, he was snoring on the canvas. You can't underestimate this guy's ground game. It's the second rear naked choke he's got on his record. He's got good takedown defense. We saw that in his fight against Sato. I don't expect John Lineker to try and take him down, unless John Lineker gets hurt. But even when he got hurt against Fernandez, he still was able to scramble back to his feet wrestling on a single leg. With John Lineker, we know what to expect. If I'm John Lineker fighting Andrade, I'm thinking to myself, this is a challenge because I've got a few pieces of information from what I've seen of his one championship career, and I don't know much else. if I'm Andrade, I would probably have been watching John Lineker come through, in his previous career. With the experience that he's got and the time that he's been fighting, there's lots of information about John Lineker. You can see him fight over 15 minutes several times, over 25 minutes. There's a lot to study of John Lineker. You always get the same version. It's that wild man that throws his hands like they're made out of kettlebells. And I mean, you're gonna see it here against Bellingen, who, of course, wants to stand his ground. But when you start to feel this force coming towards you, the recklessness of it, the confidence behind it, you start to give ground. You find yourself trapped up against the fence. And obviously, his opponent's doing a really good job of circling and moving. But eventually your legs start to run out. And then you start to do these head movements where you're trying to duck out of the way of stuff. I mean, You have to bear in mind how close these guys are when he uncorks this uppercut. It's a very short punch, but the reaction he gets, it just illustrates how heavy-handed John Lineker is. You can see his opponent here ducking his head down. So John Lineker's not too far away from him here, and he's going to bowl this right-handed uppercut. Here it is, bang, and he's going to catch him right on the temple with it. And now that is a short punch. But straight away, the reaction of his opponent is that he just doesn't want to be in this fight anymore. I mean, that must have been such an impactful shot. And we saw this against Bibiano Fernandez in his most recent fight. He comes forward like a hurricane. He's aggressive, he's confident not only in his punching power, but also in his ability to take a punch. I mean, you can watch this fight yourself. There's a point where Bibiano catches him with a left hook, recognizes that it was a good left hook that it landed, and he resets and hits him with exactly the same shot a second later and knocks him down with it. But what does Lineker do? He wrestles back up on a single leg and he's back to pressuring straight away. The other thing that I like about John Lineker as well, and of course there's a real recklessness to his style. There's a Vanderlei Silva-esque recklessness to his style. But because there's so much ferocity in it, he has his opponent's respect straight away. The other thing that's going to serve him well against Andrade, given the fact that he gives up height and reach, is the fact that he always searches for that body shot first. He often goes right hook to the body, left hook to the head. And because the punches come in a swarm and every one of them is a power punch, it only takes one of them to get through to knock his opponent off balance. And almost always he's throwing 5-6 punches at a time. You'll see here against Bibiano Fernandez. Watch this attack here up against the fence. Body, head, and then he goes back to the head, but he stays in the pocket. Like that first shot to the body is going to be key against Andrade, because working anything into the body is going to be valuable, especially because it will stop him reaching towards the head. Like Andrade is very good at moving away from the mic, slipping away, trying to get his head out of the way. Now, of course, if you've got space behind you to do that, it's very safe. But if you find yourself slipping away and backing up and you're up against the fence, which is where John Lineker wants you, one of these punches is going to land. So watch we go. Jab, big right hook to the body, which misses. And you can see the power, swings him fully off balance. I mean, this is incredible Hulk kind of punching. Swing, and then he launches to the head, lands on the guard, still knocks his opponent, still catches his opponent good and clean, but then he comes back with the other hand, which really lands clean, because you can't defend all these shots, especially with the ferocity that he's throwing them at. His opponent takes that shot very well. You see the level change. You see John Lineker adjust and move himself out so he doesn't get taken down, but stays enough in the pocket so he can throw another left hook and crack him on the chin. I just love that sequence. I love the fact that he's not discouraged if he misses his first 2 punches. I love the fact that he's not discouraged if he goes, 1, 2, 3, I've hit you, but I've not hurt you, and I'm going to go again, and I'm going to hurt you with the next one. He is a ferocious individual, but there is a recklessness about his game. And if you're someone like Fabricio Andrade, who's got a wicked knee that comes up the centre line, this kind of posture when someone's punching could be a gift. It could be a curse, because it could leave Fabricio Andrade in the pocket throwing a knee and catching one of these big shots. And this is consistent all the way through John Lineker's career. He is digging to the body and swinging, and there's no direct linear attack. Everything is a wind-up. Everything looks like he's got a kettlebell in his hand. I mean, look, he's like swinging that like he's going to knock somebody out with a lead weight. And because he's done this over and over again, 35 wins, 17 knockouts. And that's 17 knockouts are the fights that he finished with punches. You've got to think how many times he's hit someone and they've fallen down. I don't even have that statistic for you, but I would imagine it's more than 17. He is able to hit people on arms, on rib cages, wherever, and hurt them. At no point can Fabricio Andrade find himself trapped up against the fence, because even if he feels like he's going to be able to land this knee in the process of John Lineker crashing forward, there's still that risk that the knee's going to come up the centre. There's still that risk that the punches are going to come around, even when the knee's coming up the centre line. That ferocity doesn't give you the same amount of time that someone who's timid would to close that distance. John Lineker's going to be flying in with no regard for what's coming back in his direction. Unless Andrade can get that respect from him early, which is going to be a key, I feel. Footwork, movement, and targeting of certain areas of John Lineker's body will be smart, but don't get drawn into one of these firefights with John Lineker, because he's going to do this to you. I mean, he's going to fold your legs stiff. And one thing I will notice as well, which in my opinion makes him a little bit more intimidating. What I would normally see when I see someone as ferocious as John Lineker, as animalistic in their attack, when they land a punch, they follow their opponent to the floor and continue punching until the referee's there to save them. John Lineker is very calculated in his last couple of shots, and you can see that here. Like as he's dropped Fernandez against the fence here, he runs in and just look how he just taps him on the chin. I mean, that is literally the straightest punch I've ever seen him throw. But you can tell he wasn't really throwing it to do a great deal of damage, because he knew the damage was done. He knows what it feels like to land a knockout shot. And this is not an isolated situation either. John Lineker has done this before. You'll see him where he postures to hit and he doesn't, because he sees their eyes spinning in their head. He knows he doesn't need to land anymore. I'm mentioning that for one or two reasons. One, because it's scary that he has that presence in that moment when he looks like he's completely losing control, and then he sees someone's out and he go, they need no more. And the other reason is it shows me that he can put his foot on the gas when he wants to, and he doesn't live in that state of wild man, because that could be very dangerous for him. Against someone like Andrade, who plays that range very well, John Lineker, if he's just wound up and angry and there for a fight, he's going to go flying into range and potentially run onto something. I like what this calculation here shows me, because it shows me that he's got the ability to read exactly what's in front of him. Even though he looks wild on the outside, inside there's something very, very calculated going on, which is very scary. Okay. Let me show you some of the work that Fabricio Andrade does to the body of his opponents. And this is rib-cracking, lung-emptying kind of knees and kicks to the body. Your liver will hate you if you get kicked with one of these shots. And he's so accurate. He's so fast with it. And this is the big point of difference, because they are very, very different fighters. Andrade, he's tall, he's rangy, he's patient, he's technical. On the other side, you've got John Lineker, who's squat with short, powerful, muscular arms that comes wading in. All of his punches come around the sides. Andrade, he's very direct with what he's hitting and with how he's hitting it. Let me show you these clips. I mean, I've thoroughly enjoyed researching these guys. I've learnt so much. So let's have a look at this fight. This is against Lineker, and all the time you feel like the distance between the two of them is no man's land. It's a dangerous place for his opponent to transition through. And you'll see what I mean with this. This is the first real good shot that he lands it to the body. You can see Lineker not sure whether to close distance, decides he's going to commit, and you can see Fernandez drop his weight onto that back foot, ready to spring, and then he fires the kick right into the midsection. It lands, and this is the beautiful thing about Muay Thai kicking in MMA, is what you're seeing there is you're seeing the foot and the shin go all the way across the midsection. So it's not only does it hit them in the midsection, but it stops their forward momentum, which of course, if you're fighting John Lineker, is going to be really valuable. You need something to stop this guy running at you, because otherwise he's going to continue doing it. That's a beautiful knee that he lands there. And he does hurt his opponents, but he doesn't get excited about it like some people do. And this is where you know he's calculated and he's got lots of Muay Thai experience, because he's been in these situations before where he's hit somebody in the ribs and he's gone to try and finish him and he hasn't been able to. I can just see it by how chambered and calm he is. Because He goes back to his footwork, picking with the jab, teasing his opponent. See how he keeps bouncing back? He's trying to get them to move through this space. Now, sometimes he'll move away. And this, as I said before, is the key of having the space behind him. You can see the fence here behind Lee. There's lots of space here for Andrade to back up into if he's being attacked. So controlling the center in this one is going to be key. If he's trapped up against the fence, he has to use lateral movement. And because John Lineker comes around the sides with everything, it's going to be difficult to get out the way of those shots. If he's in the center and he's able to keep John Lineker back up against the fence somewhat, then he's got that space to move back into. But I think that battle in itself is going to be incredibly difficult for both of them. And I expect John Lineker to be the one that wins it, mainly because he doesn't ever take a back step. Whereas Andrade, I feel like he has the option to move away if he needs to, and he may need to in this fight. The one thing I'm going to mention to you, which is a concern of mine for Andrade, is the way that he moves away. Because he's tall, because he's quick, because he reads his opponents so well, he's able to, when they start swinging, he comes away. He gets his body away from them. Now, this is a big left hook that's being landed by Lee, who's got a fair amount of powerful shots on his resume. That shot from John Lineker is a different thing entirely. This is the risk for Andrade. If he is going to use this defensive footwork to move back, he's got to make sure he's quick. He's got to make sure that his chin's out the way. But then what do we know about John Lineker? He throws his first shot to the body. This is going to be key because, of course, Andrade is trying to get his prime target out of the way. He's trying to get his head out of the way. But that doesn't mean he's not going to get caught with a body shot in the process, and that might start to slow him down over the distance. This is a championship fight. The more work that John Lineker can do to the body and legs in the first round, the more this is going to play in as the fight goes on. And John Lineker is very good at dismantling people over the distance. We'll see what Andrade can do with that kind of pressure, because we've only seen him go distance once in one championship, and that was a real back and forth fight. This one will be a very different one, though. That's one thing I wanted to point out about Andrade's style. The way that he backs up like that is a little bit of a concern. Because he's so good at it, though, most likely what he's going to be able to do is he's going to be able to... Look how fast that jab was. I mean, that is on the face before his opponents even thought about returning a shot. But also notice how he pulls himself out of the way. He's very, very good defensively. But John Lineker doesn't throw single shots. He comes crashing forward. There is a risk there. But there is also a risk that John Lineker might run onto that. And you can see that it hurt Lee by the way he drops his elbows to his sides. So he's in front of you. You've got to picture this yourself. He's in front of you and he's testing that range. He's poking you. He's teeping you. He's giving you impressions that he wants to engage, but you're going to have to do some of the work. And then you step forward to engage, and then you get caught with this knee to the midsection. And Lee Kai-Wen hides this very well. I mean, you can see there he's hurt. That's the moment where it sinks in that he's got no air in his lungs, and then you can see him. He pulls his elbows tight. And of course, Andrade is going to push forward and he's going to throw a few shots, but he's not reckless with it. He's going to wait for the next opportunity to land that same knee to the body again. There he is pulling away. Like, just for a moment, picture if there's the fence behind him. If he hits that fence there and he can't slip away anymore, where's the next shot from John Lineker going? Bang, 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 bang. He's going to keep throwing until he lands something that feels substantial. That is a real risk. I have to keep mentioning that. This is a battle of the center. I mean, whoever can control the center is going to have the advantage in defense as well. John Lineker's defense is being too close to you for you to do anything. Andrade is a little bit too far away for you to feel like you can do anything, so you have to commit, and that's when he catches you. And this is consistent as well through his performances. There's the knee again. I mean, this is a minute left in the first round. Straight into the midsection. Now again, look where he is in the circle. Fireworks. Look where he is in the circle. He has got his opponent back right up against the fence, so he can commit to these shots now because he knows his opponent's not got anywhere to go. Right in the midsection. And of course, Lee Kai-Wen is trying to back up, trying to get away, and Andrade is not going to let him off. He throws a blitz. He tries to land a few shots. He realizes that his opponent is not out of the fight yet. So he's going to give him some space, and he's going to set up his next shot. Now, put yourself in Lee Kai-Wen's position for a minute. You've been hit twice with that knee to the body. The one thing that you don't want to happen is to take one more shot to the body, because I don't know how he's taken 2. Taking 3, I don't think he would have been able to withstand it. But of course, Andrade, being the smart fighter that he is, he knows this. So as he throws this kick, look at the reaction he gets from his opponent. Arm comes down because he's sweeping a body kick out the way, and he is leaning into a body kick. Now, he was fortunate that he had his hand up, because this foot does crack him right at the side of the head. And the only thing between his head and the shin is his glove. So there was a little bit of something that took some of the sting out of it. But again, it's the beginning of the end. He gets caught with a shot. He gets chased down. And it's just too much for him. I mean, that last little left hand on the chin was enough. Look at that. I mean, that's beautiful. He takes it well, but you can see he's clearly blocking a body kick. This arm here is sweeping down to cover all of that space there. He's trying to block his body with everything that he's got. With the back arm, elbows tucked into his hip. Look, you can see his back elbow there. Back elbows tucked into his hip. Lead arm sweeping. The priority is to protect his rib cage. And he gets smacked at the side of the head. And you can see him a little bit dazed, and it was enough to allow Fabricio Andrade to chase him down and land that one more left hand on the chin. There, just a short shot as he's moving back. But the damage was already done, of course, with the body shots. Lee Kai-Wen was already weakened by that. And, we can see this against Jeremy here, Pakatu. He catches him wicked with a body shot here. But again, he's keeping him just on the outside, trying to tempt him to step in. And then when he steps in, bang. Oh. And the replay I've got of this, his rib cage looks like a basketball bouncing off his knee. It's so impactful and well timed. Here we go. Someone's having a good time. Big knee, and watch how he bounces off the knee. That's how you know that it's hit rib cage, because at no point does that knee sink into any flesh. It bounces off bones immediately. Bang! And then the reaction. Oh, incredibly unpleasant. Incredibly unpleasant. And if you haven't felt that before, keep living your life without feeling a shot like that. It's very, very unpleasant. And you can see here against Kwon as well. But this is a body kick. Of course, he's fighting someone who's taller and rangier. Snaps that kick into the midsection. Really hurts him. Same again. Now, I think this is going to be a more challenging thing to land, because I think it's going to require space that John Lineker's not going to give him. But the knee that he landed against Jeremy Pakatu is tailor-made for someone like John Lineker. If I'm trying to make a fighter to beat John Lineker, I want a tall southpaw who's got a wicked rear knee, because John Lineker is very susceptible for that, the way he comes crashing in. The saving grace for him is that he's had 44 fights, a lot of them at the very top level of the sport, and he's never been knocked out. No one's ever managed to do it before. Is Fabricio Andrade the first person to do it? I don't know. But what I do see in his skill set are the abilities that he would need to beat John Lineker. Let me show you this. So this is John Lineker against Troy Worthen. This is John Lineker dealing with a southpaw kicker, which is ideal to prepare him for this kind of fight. And look what he does. This is why I said that the kick is going to be stifled. There's just not going to be the space for it, because Worthen plants that back foot, fires the body kick, and literally he closes it down, catches it on his forearms like he's blocking with Thai pads, and then he runs in. What's the first shot? Bang! Big shot to the body, and then he starts looking for the head. He's quite happy to keep digging to the body over and over again. He's not interested in chasing the head, because ultimately he knows if he can hurt you to the body, it's going to expose the head, and he only needs one more anyway. He's become accustomed to being this fighter in high-level situations. There we go again. Blocks the kick, fires back. You get nothing for free against John Lineker. Inside low kick, closing his opponent down. Ideal now, he's got him backed up against the fence, because he can start rock'em sock'em robots. I mean, literally, like you can see he's coming. You know he's coming. But if I replace this guy with Fabricio Andrade, What am I thinking? I'm thinking this knee right here is going to fire straight into this midsection as John Lineker closes down. Look how square he is when he starts wading in. That's the time I am firing that target into that midsection, because I am using that force that's coming against me and I am impaling him onto my kneecap. It will require amazing timing from Fabricio Andrade to be able to do that. But that's what we've seen in his recent fights, that incredible timing that he would need to walk somebody onto one of these shots. The risk is, of course, if he doesn't land it, then we know what's coming next. A thundering volume of punches, something's going to get through. But because the attack is consistent, there might be a couple of opportunities for Andrade to try and land it. It's going to be a risk, of course. I mean, just watch him punching his way out the clinch here. He is a warlike individual like I've never seen before. You know, the likes of Wanderlei Silva and Robbie Lawler come to mind. But I would say he's a little bit more wild than Robbie Lawler and a little bit more calculated than Wanderlei Silva, which is that Goldilocks zone that you want from a champion, that he's going to just drop people to the floor. And there we see him holding that shot one more time. I mean, this was a perfect right hand on the chin. As Worthing steps forward, pop. Bang, right down the pipe. Now that is a pretty straight shot. I will give him credit for that. I've said he don't throw straight shots, but that was pretty straight. Bang, right down the pipe. And then watch this. Watch how he closes him down. He lands one shot because Troy Worthing's looking at him at this point. He's dazed. One of his eyes is spinning in his head, but he's still looking at his opponent. He runs in, have one more, and then he pulls that next shot when he can see his opponent's asleep. And the other thing I want to point out to you as well here, because we go back to the conversation about calculation. Look where his hand is. Look how he's pinning that hip to the floor. Like that's something that I, in that situation, wouldn't have been able to think about. I wouldn't have been thinking about pinning a hip to the floor so I can hit him with the other hand. I would just be thinking about the punch. Again, 44 fights, being this savage, it's very, very calculated at this point. There it is one more time. Bang. Lovely punch, that is. Really nice. And then the hand goes to pin the hip. And he pulls that second shot before the referee's there to stop him. That's not only a dangerous individual, but a person that knows how to apply danger to his opponents. Super straight shot. And then holds it, chambers it. So, of course, John Lineker, we know what to expect. He's going to want the centre. He's going to want to hold the centre, and he's going to want Fabricio Andrade up against the fence where he's got two options. It's either left or right, and he can start clubbing him with those body shots to head shots. And because Fabricio Andrade likes to slip away and get his chin in the air, that, if I'm John Lineker, is what I'm looking for. On the other side, if I'm Fabricio Andrade, I've watched John Lineker's career. I know how he moves. I know that his chest is square coming at me when he's throwing those punches. I know that I need to be aware of those punches coming around the side. But if I can hit him in the solar plexus with my knee, it's going to take all of the steam out of his forward movement. And maybe I'll hit him with that knee and hurt him, and then there might be some space between us, and I can start getting my left kick working, quite possibly. The one thing I will say as well about Fabricio Andrade is that we have seen him, he started his fight against Sato in an orthodox stance. Most of the time he's southpaw. If you go back into his Muay Thai career, you'll find some fights where he starts orthodox and some where he starts southpaw. I don't know why that is. The only reason I'm going to give you my only speculation is because he has a specific game plan. He has certain techniques that he's going to use. Like, I've watched his fight against Sato a couple of times, and my logic is that he prefers takedown defense from an orthodox stance, but then that doesn't marry up with his Muay Thai choices. So he might prefer outside low kicks against other orthodox fighters. I think it's down to his game plan. So when the first round starts, we know what John Lineker we're going to get. Fabricio Andrade is a bit of a mystery to me. He's 10 fights into his record. He's 25 years of age. There's so much more growth for him, and he's already got so many skills in the bank. We know he's got rear naked chokes. We know he's got good takedown defense. He's got a great single necktie stopping people coming crashing in. But John Lineker's been doing this a long time, and he's put out some of the best fighters. He's put down some of the best fighters. He's got wins the distance over some of the best fighters in the world. He's now the Bantamweight champion, and he's got this wonder boy in front of him. Let's see if he can land those fists on his chin, or see if he takes that knee to the midsection that takes the belt out of his hands. Oh, what a fight this is going to be. Make sure you check it out. The one on Prime Video 3 main event, John Lineker against Fabricio Andrade. I'll see you next time.